This is Susan Lunt, Water Resource Extension Agent with Pickens County. I'm here today with Will Harris, a septic contractor that's going to answer a few questions for us. I know our webinar participants will greatly appreciate the information. Thank you, Will, for taking the time. First question I have is, what should someone expect during a service call?
Thanks, Susan, for having me. What should someone expect during a service call is we show up. If you know where the septic tank's at, we start checking in that area to make sure that the septic tank is there. A lot of times we show up and the people think they know where the septic tank's at, and it ends up being somewhere else, which is not a problem because we have the proper tooling to be able to find that septic tank. We find it, we immediately dig it up, and we do an investigation as soon as we get the lid off of it to make sure that the bacteria is right in it, to make sure that we can just about tell how long it's been since you serviced and maintained the septic tank. We can also tell most of the time if the drain lines are working properly. If we pull the lid and there's a thin crust, we know that the septic tank has been maintained and doing what it's supposed to do. If we pull it and it hasn't been serviced in many years, then we do know that it needs to be serviced because the bacteria in it has began to not be working, and that's a lot of the failure. So once we pump out the septic tank, we tell you how it's looking. If the septic tank doesn't need anything, we tell you, kind of give you a thumbs up and tell you everything's working properly, don't change anything. And if we find baby wipes or feminine products or things that doesn't need to be flushed down into the septic tank, we tell you to please stop doing that. And we offer a maintenance program to where, depending on the amount of people that live there, we could do 3 years for more than five or more people in a house. 5 years if there's only 2 of you. That's what we recommend for a good service. And then we cover everything back up nice and smooth, put the dirt back the way it was, we hand rake it, and then we load our truck back up and we're gone. So
Great. So it sounds like people should know the location of their tank and possibly when it was last serviced. Is there any other information or documentation they should have when you arrive?
So a lot of people, they do have their septic permit from the local county, and that does help us find the septic tank a lot of times because we can at least know what side of the house that the tank is on, and that helps. But as far as they have a print of the permit, you can go to your county DHEC and they'll provide it if they have it. Of course, a lot of the older information they don't have anymore. So,
okay, great. If I were to call you out to my home, do I need to be home when you come, and do you need access inside my home?
Yeah, so that's a great question. If you have a problem, in other words, if it's backed up into your house, or we prefer you to be at home because when we access the septic tank, we can pump it out and we can tell you, if the clog was right there at the septic tank. If it's between the septic tank and inside the house, we do our very best to find it. And then once we do find it and we do clear the line, we like you to flush your toilets to make sure everything is flowing out of the house and getting to the septic tank. So we do like that, but you don't have to.
And how hard is it to get an appointment these days? Are you booking days, weeks out?
So generally we try to stay pretty busy on that. We know guys and girls have emergency situations that come up. We try to allow slots for that. We can get to people most of the time in 1 to 2 days, if not the same day.
Terrific. And how long is a typical appointment, if it's maintenance versus an emergency kind of issue?
So the typical appointment, I allow 2-hour intervals, and that's generally we can locate a tank, dig it, and pump it in that 2-hour interval. Of course, we've had some that we don't know where the tank's at, and it's, it takes 5, 6, maybe even 7 hours to do the entire job. But when we get there, we generally don't stop until we get the job done.
So it sounds like if you know where it is, you're going to save everybody a lot of time.
Yeah, knowing where your septic tank's at, and even buying a riser, and the riser gains access to the top of the septic tank. And basically a riser, you never have to look for your septic tank. We get there, it's got a concrete cap on it. We pull the cap back. We've got access to the top of the tank. We can pump it out, and we can be gone.
What if somebody doesn't know what they're looking for in their yard for a riser? What should they be looking for?
So a riser is generally a 12-inch to 24-inch round cap. Could be a concrete cap, could be a green lid. That's your normal size. A lot of people get confused with a clean out, which a clean out is a PVC pipe that's 4 to 5 inches in diameter.
What should a user expect a typical price range to be for an inspection and pump out?
So we have a standard across the board. We charge $400 per 1,000 gallons. Some of the bigger houses up on the lake, they have 1,500 gallon tanks. Of course, we have to charge twice because that's what we get charged to offload it off of our truck. But standard across the board is $400. We charge $200 to locate and dig the lid up. And generally, if you do the locate and dig and the septic pump out, which is $600, we do the inspection for free. A lot of times the houses will have risers on them, and we do a $200 charge for the inspection. Realtor.
And when you come out, about how many people, how many trucks usually come to a typical residence in our area?
So we send one truck, our pump truck. It's got, like I said before, it's got all of our digging equipment on it. We try to show up. There's 2 guys in the truck. We show up, and generally we knock the job out with one truck, 2 people.
And what's the difference between an inspection and a pump out? Or are those the same thing?
No, so to do an inspection correctly, you need to pump it out so you can gain access to the entire tank, so that when we do an inspection, we look at the entire tank, make sure there's no cracks, make sure there's no roots, make sure there's nothing inside of that tank that's not supposed to be there. So to do an inspection correctly, it has to be pumped out so that you see the entire tank. And not only are we looking at the tank, we're also looking, like I said before, we're looking at the way the bacteria is working in the tank. If it needs to be serviced more often, we of course tell the homeowner that, hey, we, instead of doing it every 10 years, 15 years, you need to do it every 5. So it's cheap insurance to have it pumped out. It's you're saving your drain lines, which is it can be a very expensive fix. It's kind of like changing oil in your car. Your car can probably go 15, 20,000 miles on oil change, but that motor's not going to last that long. So if you change it regular, like you're supposed to, the bacteria will save your drain lines. So
good information. Other things besides having it pumped out on a regular basis can residents do to maintain their system? Like if there was the top, say, 3 things I should be doing as a septic tank user.
So, like I've preached already, maintenance is key. Maintenance is key. As long as you're maintaining that septic system properly and you're not flushing anything down it that's not supposed to be there, that can get to the drain lines, because you can eventually stop the drain lines up and they start backing up, and then the water it doesn't flow out of there. So maintenance is the main thing, and then the second thing would be to keep products out of it. Do not flush the baby wipes. They say flushable on them. They're not dissolvable. They are flushable. They are not dissolvable. We see a big problem with baby wipes that can clog septic tanks up, clog drain fields up. The third thing would be to a lot of people that during the pandemic, they have a lot of toilet paper. So they think that they can use a lot of toilet paper. Well, that toilet paper can get wadded up right there at the septic tank in what we call the baffle, and will clog it. And got to call somebody to come out there. We unclog it. We pump it while we're there. And that would be so maintenance, keeping things out, and then excessive amount of toilet paper.
Besides the routine maintenance of having it inspected and pumped out every possibly 3 to 5 years, when else would I want to call a septic contractor?
Well, anytime you have a problem. I mean, most of the time people, we got to call a plumber. And sometimes a plumber is needed. But if it starts backing up in your house and the toilets don't flush and the water's not going down the drain, 9 times out of 10, of course, there's a clog somewhere. But a lot of times it's a clog because the septic tank hasn't been maintained, and the crust buildup in the septic tank from the bacteria not working has caused backup, and a lot of times it just needs to be serviced.
Do people notice odors around the tank, or maybe around the sinks or bathrooms?
Well, if you notice odor, there's definitely a leak, a smell, and the smell's getting out. So check your P-traps up under your sinks. Make sure your vents are proper inside the house. If there's odor outside, there's generally a leak. So start looking for water. Start looking for there could be some septic on the ground to where people think, oh, well, that's just groundwater. Well, it's probably septic.
So if there's ponding near your septic tank, then they should give
absolutely
a call.
There's a leak that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Do you have any stories for us of something that may have gone really wrong or really well? You've gone out to see a client and you're like, wow, this is the best septic system I've ever seen, or wow, this is a good story to keep.
The best story I have is about the people didn't know where their septic tank was, and I started probing around, and I found where the pipe come out, and where the pipe come out, it was headed straight towards an above ground swimming pool. And so I started probing, and I probed it all the way, and sure enough, we found the septic tank under the above ground pool that they just had put in. Before you put a swimming pool in, make sure you check where your septic tank's at, because and the homeowner were like, we didn't even think about it because we thought we were on sewer, because they were in city limits, but there's a lot of houses in city limits that don't have sewer.
Well, that just stresses the importance of knowing the location.
Yes.
And in maintaining it frequently, and then you would know the location before you did any.
Yeah, so the location is key, along with the maintenance. If you know the location of your septic tank and you maintain it properly, generally you're going to have a successful working septic system.
Well, thank you so much, Will. This is invaluable information for our participants today, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.